On 27 October 2021, the Ministry of National Development announced details of the prime location public housing model, known as the PLH. This new model provides a set of regulations that will be applied to new HDB BTO flats to be built in prime locations. Under the PLH model, HDB flats built in central locations like the city centre and the Greater Southern Waterfront will fall under this definition of prime location. There are only 3 groups of buyers that will be eligible for the PLH model. Let's look at them in detail. Persons who fall under the public scheme can apply for flats under the PLH model, such as husband buying with wife, forming a family nucleus. Children buying with parents, forming a family nucleus. Divorced or widowed parents, with young children under the legal custody. Persons under the fiancé-fiancée scheme. The couple must, however, produce a valid marriage certificate to HDB for verifications within 3 months after they collect keys to the flat. Orphan siblings can also apply for flats under PLH. These siblings must be unmarried, divorced, or widowed, and does not own any other flats themselves. There must be at least 1 Singaporean in the household, and that the Singaporean is buying the flat with another Singaporean or a Singapore permanent resident. Income ceiling applies, and it depends on the size of the flat the buyers are applying for. For 99-year 2-room flexi flats, the income ceiling is $7,000. Depending on the housing project, the income ceiling for a 3-room flat is either $7,000 or $14,000. For the rest of the bigger flat types, the income ceiling is $14,000 for the general family nucleus and $21,000 if you're buying as a multi-generation family. If you own any private properties now, you must sell it 30 months before you can apply for a flat under the PLH model. You will not be able to qualify for a PLH flat if you have previously enjoyed 2 subsidies. For example, if you had 2 BTO flats previously, you will not be able to apply for the PLH flats, as you have already enjoyed subsidies twice. This applies too if you had previously enjoyed CPF housing grants or bought a new executive condominium from a developer. This would mean if this is the first time you are buying any HDB flat, you can apply for PLH flats. Or if you have ever bought a new BTO or EC or a resale flat with grant, you can utilize your chance to enjoy your second subsidies by applying for a PLH flat. The flat can only be sold after 10 years MOP instead of the usual 5 years. There will also be eligibility criteria for resale buyers to fulfill, which we can discuss next. An owner of a PLH flat will also not be able to invest in private properties within the same 10 years minimum occupation period. Something is interesting as well. The owners of PLH flats will not be able to rent the whole flat at all, regardless of MOP, although renting of spare bedrooms are allowed. This would mean PLH is really a home that the owners must reside in. Buyers buying PLH in the resale market are subjected to eligibility conditions. This will restrict the pool of available buyers. Buyers of a resale PLH flat must have at least one of them being Singaporean, buying together with another Singaporean or a Singapore permanent resident. Buyers of a resale PLH flat will also have to form family nucleus, for example, under the public scheme or the fiancé-fiancée scheme. Singles will not be able to buy a PLH flat, even in the resale market. Buyers of a resale PLH flat will also have to fulfill income ceiling of not more than $14,000. Buyers of both new and resale PLH flats must not have owned any private properties within the last 30 months. That would mean, for example, if the family had a landed property, they will need to sell it first and wait 30 months before they can buy a PLH flat. HDB in central areas that are sold after the 10 years minimum occupation period will be subjected to a varying level of subsidies clawback based on the valuation or the selling price at the time of sale, whichever is higher. This subsidies clawback changes from project to project and will only be made known when the project is launched. The first BTO under the PLH model at Rocher is the River Pigs. For River Pigs, it comes with a 6% subsidies clawback. For example, Peter bought a 3-room PLH flat in Rocher at $600,000 as a first-timer, and he sold it after 10 years at $900,000. Peter will have to pay a clawback subsidy of 6% to HDB. This subsidies clawback is on the purchase price and not the selling price. Assuming Peter applies for a new BTO in Jurong as a second-timer after selling the PLH flat, that would mean Peter will then need to pay HDB the subsidies clawback for the sale of the PLH flat, as well as a resale levy of $30,000 when buying the new BTO flat in Jurong, since he's enjoying his second subsidies. Under this new model, there will also be fewer flats set aside for married child priority scheme, so that people who do not have parents staying in the area would have more chances of getting a PLH flat. In comparison, owners of a PLH flat has to fulfill a minimum occupation period of 10 years, compared to 5 for the normal BTO. PLH flat owners are also restricted from renting the whole flat to others, whereas this is not a criteria for other BTO flats once the minimum occupation period is fulfilled. Generally, for PLH flat owner, they have a restricted pool of buyers, which is not the same for other BTOs. More importantly, there will be a subsidies clawback for PLH flats. For a buyer buying a resale PLH flat, they too have to fulfill an MOP of 10 years. They are also not allowed to rent out the whole flat. Similarly, they have restrictions when it comes to reselling their PLH flats next time as well. However, for the subsidies clawback, this is only applicable for buyers who are buying directly from HDB and not a resale PLH. Generally, the buyers have to fulfill an income ceiling of not more than $14,000, which is not a requirement for the other types of resale flats. If this resale buyer who is buying a PLH flat previously owned a private property, they too have to sell it 30 months before they can buy this resale PLH flat. This is not the same for the other sorts of resale flats currently. The other resale flats can generally still hold on to their private property, but they have to sell it within 6 months after the HDB is purchased.